Before we begin, I want you to take a deep breath in and out. Just for a moment, let everything else fall away, the worries, the noise, the expectations. Let this be your space, a space where you don't have to prove anything, where you don't have to pretend you're okay if you're not, where you can simply be tender, tired, hopeful, hurting, human. If you've clicked on this video, maybe you're carrying something. Maybe it's a loss that still stings even after all these years. Maybe it's a regret that lingers in the quiet moments. Or maybe you're just tired of holding yourself together all the time, wondering when the weight will lift. Whatever brought you here, I want you to know you're not alone, you're not weak, and you're not broken. You're healing. And healing, my friend, takes time. This is not a message about fixing yourself. It's not a quick fix answer or a motivational push. This is a gentle conversation, a hand on your shoulder, a warm voice in your ear saying it's okay to take your time. So if you've ever wondered why you're not over it yet, if you've ever felt rushed to feel better, if you've ever been hard on yourself for still feeling pain, this is for you. Let's begin. Chapter 1, A Gentle Whisper to the Soul. Let me ask you something quietly, from one soul to another. Have you ever felt like you were supposed to be further along in your healing than you are? Like there's some invisible clock ticking, telling you that you should be done hurting by now? I think we've all been there. At some point in life, we find ourselves whispering, I should be over this, shouldn't I? But who told us that? Where did that idea come from? Was it something someone said in passing? Or maybe it was something we internalized over time. A belief that pain has an expiration date, that after a certain point, it becomes inconvenient, that we need to smile through it, tidy it up, and put it away neatly so the rest of the world doesn't get uncomfortable. But the truth is, healing doesn't wear a watch. It doesn't care about timelines or appearances. It doesn't work on deadlines or calendars. It's not a straight line, and it doesn't ask for permission to take its time. Healing arrives when it's ready, and it leaves when it's complete, not when the world expects it, not when we wish it would, and certainly not when others get tired of waiting for us to feel better. There is no shame in taking your time, none at all. You don't need to rush your healing. You don't need to force your heart to mend before it's ready. Some aches run deep, and some stories need longer to make peace with. That's okay. You're not behind, you're human. And being human means we hurt sometimes. It means we carry things, memories, moments, regrets, love that never had a proper place to land. And it means we get to feel all of it without apology, without guilt, without a deadline. Chapter 2, The Wounds We Carry with Age. As we grow older, we begin to understand that life is not just a collection of joyful memories and laughter, but also a landscape marked by quiet sorrows and unseen scars. By the time we've reached a certain age, we've lived through a lot. We've had joys, yes, and laughter, but we've also had losses. People we love deeply who are no longer with us. Dreams we chased that never quite came true. Words we didn't say in time. Mistakes we wish we could take back. And moments, beautiful, complicated moments, that still live quietly inside us. There are parts of our story we rarely talk about anymore. The heartbreaks that still flicker behind the eyes. The years that were heavier than we let on. The nights we spent awake, remembering. The relationships that didn't heal the way we hoped they would. And the chapters that ended before we were ready. Some wounds stay tender even after years. It might be the way a song brings back a memory of someone who's gone, or how a place, a smell, a photo can suddenly open up a feeling you thought had settled long ago. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you cared. It means you felt life deeply. That's something to honor, not hide. And let's be honest, there are some things we carry not because we haven't tried to heal, but because some loves are simply unforgettable. There's a kind of grief that lingers, not because we haven't healed, but because love never really leaves us. That's not weakness. That's truth. You don't stop missing someone just because decades have passed. You don't stop wishing for different outcomes just because time has moved on. And you don't stop needing kindness just because you've learned to carry your pain quietly. Chapter 3: Society's Pressure to Move On. We live in a world that glorifies resilience but misunderstands it. There's this pressure to move on quickly, to bounce back, to keep our pain hidden, dressed in polite smiles and strong handshakes. And especially as we age, that pressure can become heavier. People assume we've already figured it all out, that we're past all the hard stuff, that we've built up a kind of armor. But what they don't see is that age doesn't shield us from heartache. If anything, it deepens our capacity to feel it, because we've seen more. We've loved more. We've lost more. We've lived more, and still we're expected to keep it all together. We're expected to say, we're fine even when we're not. We're expected to be the strong ones for our children, our grandchildren, our communities. We carry our grief quietly out of sight so we don't burden anyone. But let me tell you this, it is not a burden to be real. It is not a weakness to feel deeply. It is not a failure to still be healing. Pretending to be okay before we are doesn't help us heal. It just buries what still needs tending. And sometimes that buried pain grows heavier with time. Sometimes it waits patiently for us to stop long enough to finally feel it. Healing asks for honesty, it asks for space, and most of all, it asks for compassion. Not the kind we give to others so easily, but the kind we so rarely give to ourselves. You're not too sensitive, you're not too emotional, you're not weak, you're healing, and that is brave. Chapter 4: The Wisdom of Slowing Down. One of the quiet gifts that comes with age is the understanding that life doesn't need to be rushed, that we don't have to hurry through everything, that slowing down isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. In our younger years, we rushed through everything. We ran toward goals. We moved quickly through heartbreak, pushing it aside so we could get back to our routines. We didn't have time to fall apart. We didn't have time to sit with our feelings. But now we can. Now we get to breathe a little deeper. We get to sit longer with our coffee in the morning. We get to walk without needing to arrive anywhere in particular. We get to listen, not just to others, but to ourselves. Healing often happens in the quiet, not in grand breakthroughs or big changes, but in soft, unnoticed ways. In a walk through the trees, in a long cup of tea, in a moment where you let yourself cry and don't apologize for it, in forgiving yourself for something you've carried too long. There is wisdom in not hurrying your heart. There is strength in giving yourself the grace to feel every emotion fully without judgment. Because when we slow down, we begin to understand that healing isn't about fixing. It's about integrating. It's about saying, yes, this happened and I'm still here. I'm still growing. I'm still whole, even with my cracks. Chapter 5: Stories from the Heart. Let me share something that stayed with me. There was a woman I knew in her 70s who had lost her husband when she was just 45. They were childhood sweethearts, married young, and loved each other fiercely. When he passed, her world shattered, but she had 2 children to raise, bills to pay, a life to keep running. So she did what many of us do. She kept moving. She pushed the grief to the background and told herself she'd deal with it later. Years passed, decades even. Her children grew up, she built a life, but she never really let herself feel the full weight of that loss. Then one afternoon, sitting alone in her garden, something shifted. Maybe it was the way the wind moved the trees, or the song playing from a distant radio. Maybe it was just time. But she wept, deep guttural sobs that had waited 30 years to be released. She didn't cry because she hadn't healed. She cried because she finally allowed herself to feel what she'd locked away for so long. And afterwards, she said she felt lighter, not because the grief was gone, but because it had finally been honored. We all have stories like that. Stories of delayed healing, of postponed feelings, of love that still echoes in the quiet corners of our hearts. And every one of those stories deserves gentleness. Chapter 6, The Gift of Giving Yourself Permission. So here's what I want you to know. You are allowed to take as long as you need. There's no clock running out, no finish line you have to cross. Healing isn't a competition. It's a conversation between your soul and your story. You can forgive yourself slowly. You can grieve again, even if it's been years. You can let something go in your own time, not when someone else says you should. That's your right. That's your path. And no one can walk it for you. Let yourself feel everything. The sorrow, the hope, the longing, the peace, they're all part of the journey. You don't have to be okay all the time. You don't have to explain your healing to anyone. You're not too late. You're not too much. You're simply human. If this spoke to you, I'd love for you to be part of this growing community. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. This space is for healing, for reflection, for real connection. Thank you for being here.